This is a Crisscross Picks production. In the lightweight division of UFC 290, you got Kamil Leclerc coming in at 12-5, interesting fighter, taking on Esteban Ribovic, who comes in at 11-1. Both guys stand 5'10". They're both in their late 20s. Kirk has a significant reach advantage, 6 inches. He's a switch stance fighter. Ribovic fights right-handed. Now, Ribovic, more active, 4.8 significant strikes per minute to 3 for Kirk. Kirk can land like a takedown over the course of 3 rounds, but just shy of that. So neither fighter's really going to try to land a lot of takedowns, and they both got weak takedown defense, so we'll see. Now, against Damon Jackson, Kirk fell by arm triangle submission in the second round. He did beat Makwan Amirkhani by decision, gave up 5 takedowns. He also lost to Billy Q, 127-55 in significant strikes. He did have 2 takedowns, but that didn't really matter. He got KO'd in the 3rd round, but it is impressive that he made it that far. Please believe it. Now, Esteban Ribovic, 47% takedown defense. That's not very good either. Lost to Razabov. He did lead at 66-40 in significant strikes, but gave up 11 takedowns. Lost that fight by decision. That's crazy. But he did beat Thomas Paul at the Contender Series by KO. So this is a very difficult fight to predict. But, I'm going to lean with Ribovic just because he's 11-1. He's won 11 of 12. The only fight he's really lost is in the UFC. Now, Kamil Leclerc is a tough fighter, which makes the prediction very tough. Crazy division, lightweight division, where anything can happen. But I'm going to lean again towards Ribovic. He's more active on his feet. Kamil Leclerc doesn't land a lot of takedowns. I have a feeling he'll shoot for some in this fight, so Ribovic is going to have to stop the takedowns, but he will, and he'll win this fight, likely 29-28 by decision. Ribovic, with the win, in my opinion, will move to 12-1 in one of the best divisions in the UFC, the lightweight division. UFC. In the flyweight division of UFC 290, you got Shannon Ross taking on Jesus Aguilar. Ross 13-7, Aguilar 8-2. This should be a pretty close matchup. Ross 2 inches taller at 5'6". He's 34, Aguilar 27 years old. So one guy leaving his peak, Aguilar moving into his peak. That peak range 28 to 33. So one guy going out, one guy coming in, but they're both, still within that range, right? Still close to it. Now, Ross, a switch stance fighter. Jesus Aguilar stands right-handed. Now, Ross, a lot more active so far, 6.6 significant strikes per minute. That's pretty good. 1.6 for Aguilar, but Aguilar likes to land takedowns, nearly 1 per round. So far, though, Shannon Ross, 100% takedown defense, and that's because he was KO'd twice, once in the Contender Series by Vinicius Salvador, and then in the UFC by Clydeson Rodriguez. But the UFC continues to give the guy opportunities. On the other hand, Jesus Aguilar came in and got a loss against Tatsuro Taira by triangle armbar submission. I mean, you'd expect that. Taira is undefeated. At the Contender Series, he did get a win against Arison Ferreira. So this is why it's a tough matchup to predict, because we just need more from each of these guys to really make an accurate prediction. But I will tell you this. I don't like the 7 losses from Shannon Ross and coming in and losing both fights. That's a problem. At least his opponent, Aguilar, won at the Contender Series. That could have been a matchup thing, but I just like Aguilar to get the win here. I don't think Shannon Ross is going to be able to defend these takedowns. He can definitely strike with the best of them, but you can't strike when you're taken down. So I like Jesus Aguilar to win on takedowns and control time to move to 9-2, in my opinion. Flyweight division, UFC 290. In the bantamweight division of UFC 290, you got Cameron Simon taking on newcomer Terrence Mitchell. And I'll just tell you now, Mitchell hasn't lost since 2010. Cameron Simon has never lost. He's 18-0, Mitchell 15-2. Now, Mitchell 2 inches taller at 5'10". He's 33, so a little bit more experience than a 22-year-old Simon. Now, Simon has a 67-inch reach. He fights left-handed, 5.4 significant strikes per minute. Not much to speak of in terms of takedowns. Now, Simon, 40% takedown defense. That could be troubling against Mitchell, who's got 7 submissions and 7 KOs. Now, he's winning in the UFC, beating Manny Martinez by decision. Stephen Koslow, KO. He won at the Contender Series by KO. So he's been impressive since coming into the UFC at 5-0, winning a Contender Series, and then going 2-0. Now, Terrence Mitchell, as I said, he's got, I'm seeing 15 wins and 14 wins, but nonetheless, he's never been to a decision and won. He's 0-1 in decisions, but he's got 7 KOs and 7 submissions in wins. He was absent from 2018 till 2023 after going on a long win streak. That's hard to explain. But when he came back, he got back-to-back submissions in 2023 in February and April. So, this is a very high-level, skillful fighter in Terrence Mitchell. It's just hard to believe that he's going to beat Cameron Saaiman. Cameron Saaiman has looked really strong so far, beating UFC-level competition. He's a 4-1 favorite for a reason. I like Cameron Saaiman to get the job done and hand Terrence Mitchell his first loss since 2010. But just a little bit of caution. Mitchell could be a lot better than we think he is. Cameron Saaiman's been tested, but not truly tested. And Terrence Mitchell's been waiting for his opportunity to get into the UFC for a long time. But I like Cameron Saaiman to outstrike Terrence Mitchell. Defending the takedowns could be a big question mark here, but Saaiman still wins, in my opinion, with the 9-0 bantamweight division, UFC 290. In the light heavyweight division at UFC 290, you got Brazilian Vitor Petrino taking on Marcin Prachnio, who comes in at 16-6. Petrino perfect 8-0, but still young in his career. Now Prachnio 1 inch taller at 6'3". This is a big dude. He's 34. Petrino's still young at 25. That's why he's only 8-0 right now. Petrino's got a 3-inch reach advantage. Both guys stand right-handed. Now Prachnio is going to dominate this fight in significant strikes should he have good takedown defense. He lands 5.7 significant strikes per minute. Petrino 3.4. But Petrino will dominate in takedowns and should be able to work through the average takedown defense of Prachnio. He lands over 4 takedowns over the course of 3 rounds, on average, of course. Now, Petrino's 66% takedown defense has looked good so far, beating Anton Turkalj by decision. He had 7 takedowns. Turkalj had 5. He also beat Rodolfo Bellato at Dana White's Contender Series by KO. To get into the UFC, took advantage of his opportunity and got a win in his first fight. Now, Prachnio coming off the win against William Knight by decision, 79-8 in significant strikes. That's ridiculous. Lost to Felipe Lins. He led by 10 significant strikes, 74-64, but he did give up 4 takedowns, and that's going to be the problem that he's going to face in this fight as well. And that's why, to me, even though you got Vitor Petrino, can land a lot of takedowns, Prachnio won't be able to stop him. And Prachnio can land significant strikes, but you can't do that from your back. And that's the problem that Prachnio will have in this fight. I think Vitor Petrino, despite being of young age, will stifle the significant strikes from Prachnio, which is tough to say. Prachnio will do good against strikers, but he's not going to do good against takedown specialists. So in my opinion, tough prediction here. I like Petrino, the youngster, to get the win by decision, maybe submission, to move to 9-0. Light heavyweight division, UFC 290. In the light heavyweight division at UFC at 290, you got Jimmy Crute coming in at 12-3, taking on Alonzo Menifield, comes in at 13-3, and this is a rematch from a majority draw between these two. Now Crute, 2 inches taller at 6'2", he's 27, Menifield 35, so a little bit more experience for Alonzo Menifield. Menifield's got a 2-inch reach advantage. They both fight right-handed. Very close in significant strikes, although Menifield dominated in that area in the last fight, but Jimmy Crute dominated because he lands like 5 takedowns over the course of 3 rounds, so he dominated in that area. So you got significant strikes for Menifield, takedowns for Crute. How's this going to play out? Now in the last fight, Menifield led 56-31 in significant strikes, but Jimmy Crute had 5 takedowns to 0. And when you're breaking down these fights and you look at the stats, that's exactly what you would expect. But you would expect Crute to land some more takedowns and limit, not so much land more takedowns, but keep more control, dominate more control time. Menifield's getting up, and that's why he's landing 25 more significant strikes per minute. So before that, Jimmy Crute lost to Jamal Hill by early KO, Anthony Smith by KO. Menifield beat Misha Cirkunov and Askar Masharov. And none of those fights really matter right now. We just know that these two fighters are even. The odds have them even. And how is this fight going to play out? I think a second fight helps Jimmy Crute, because I think Menifield has peaked. He is what he is. Jimmy Crute's going to get better and better. Now, Menafield will attempt to stop these takedowns. I'm sure he's going to work on that. But he had a 75% takedown defense coming in, and it didn't seem to matter. So I think Crute is going to close the gap on significant strikes, continue to land takedowns, now just work on the control time. So, Menafield can't stop him. Crute knows what he has to work on. I think Crute's going to sneak out a victory here by another close decision. Look for a split decision possibly in this fight, but Crute wins to move to 13-3. Light heavyweight division, UFC 290. In the women's strawweight division at UFC 290, you got Yasmin Jauregui taking on Denise Gomes. Now Jauregui, perfect 10-0. Gomes 7-2. Jauregui, heavy favorite. So let's get into it. Yasmin Jauregui, 1 inch taller at 5'3". They're both in their early 20s, so young fighters. Jauregui has a 1 inch reach advantage. They both fight right-handed. Now getting into the thick of it, Yasmin Jauregui is going to dominate this fight in activity. She lands over 6 significant strikes per minute compared to about 4.7 for Gomes. You're looking at about 15 to 20 significant strike difference throughout this fight. But the takedown game goes to the Brazilian Denise Gomes, who lands like a takedown over the course of 3 rounds. But Jauregui so far, 100% takedown defense. She can keep the fight standing and she can get finishes, like she did in her last fight against Estela Nunes by second round KO. Also beat Yasmin Lucindo by decision, dominating 86-66 in significant strikes. Now Gomes, 50% takedown defense. So it would be interesting to see if Jauregui will use that against her. Coming off the win to Bruna Brazil by second round KO. So she's got some thunder, if you will, of her own in terms of the KO power. Loss of Luma Lupumi by decision, dominated. 4 takedowns to 0 for Gomes, 48-19 in significant strikes, and beat Rayan Amanda by decision at Dana White's Contender Series. So I can see why Jauregui is a heavy favorite. She's going to win this fight. She's going to keep the fight standing, defend the takedowns, and just outstrike Gomes by probably 20 to 30 significant strikes. And I wouldn't be surprised if she lands 2 or 3 takedowns in this fight as well. But does she really want to go to the ground with Gomes? That's the only question mark. But nonetheless, Jauregui is going to be a good fighter. She's already shown so. Starting out 10-0, will now move to 11-0. In my opinion, likely by finish. Women's strawweight division, UFC 290. In the welterweight division at UFC 290, you got longtime veteran Robbie Lawler, 29-16, taking on Nico Price, who comes in at 15-6. Both guys American. Price is the favorite. Let's see why. He's 1 inch taller at 6 feet, 1 inch taller than Robbie Lawler. He's 33, still in that peak range. Robbie Lawler slowing down. He's 41 years old. Nico Price, 2 inch reach advantage. He's right-handed. Robbie Lawler fights southpaw or left-handed. Now, big difference in significant strikes. More activity from Price, 5.5 significant strikes per minute to 3.8. So that's going to be well over 20, 25 significant strikes throughout the fight. Both guys land less than 1 takedown per round. Now, Robbie Lawler, 65% takedown defense, so that's average. That means Price's stat will hold up. You might get 1 takedown, but probably not. I think he's going to want to defend the takedowns and keep this thing standing. He's at 64%, so they're both average in takedown defense. So I'm looking at both guys getting 1 takedown, see what they can do with it. Both guys struggling lately, right? Robbie Lawler is 1-5 in his last 6, just beating Nick Diaz, and he was actually losing that fight until the KO. Nico Price, 1-3 in his last 4. He beat Atlas Cowboy Oliveira, lost to Phil Rowe, Donald Cerrone, and Vicente Luque. So Robbie Lawler can win this fight on a first-round KO. Or Nico Price will take this into deep waters, and Robbie Lawler will slow down in the 2nd and 3rd round, and Nico Price will edge out the victory. And to me, you got to pick one. And to me, that's more likely that Nico Price will wear down Robbie Lawler. Lawler is always tough in the first 2 to 4 minutes of a fight. If you can drag him past that, you got a good chance to beat him. Now, he beat Nick Diaz because Nick Diaz slowed down as well. Nico Price won't. He's just 33 years old, so he's still in his prime. Look for Nico Price to take this thing into deep waters late in the 3rd. Maybe he gets the finish, but likely decision 29-28 unanimous, in my opinion. Nico Price moves to 16-6, welterweight division, UFC 290. In the middleweight division at UFC 290, you got Bo Nickel taking on Tresean Gore. Bo Nickel comes in at a perfect 4-0. Gore comes in at 5-2. And both guys are early on in their career. Bo Nickal, 1 inch taller at 6'1". Bo Nickal's 27, Gore's 28 in terms of age, right? Reach, 1 inch reach advantage for Bo Nickal. He's a southpaw. Tresean Gore is a switch stance fighter. Now, Bo Nickal isn't very active on the feet, at least so far. Just averaging 1.7 significant strikes per minute. Tresean Gore, on the other hand, averages 3 significant strikes per minute. Gore can land takedowns too, like 1 per round. Bo Nickal's like a 4 per round average right now. It's ridiculous because he comes in, gets a takedown quick, and finishes the fight in a short amount of time. That's his MO. And that's what's going to happen here. I mean, we really don't need to go further. Yeah, Tresean Gore is kind of a stocky guy. He's a middleweight, right? But, you know, he's going to be worried about the KO power of Bo Nickal too and the takedown ability. But Bo Nickal's going to set it up, get the head on the hip, take him down, and finish him inside of 3 minutes. That's basically what I think happens. I mean, the takedown game and the wrestling of Bo Nickal is elite. How will it stack up against some of the better middleweight fighters? That remains to be seen. But Tresean Gore is no match for Bo Nickal in this fight. It's going to be a very quick fight, in my opinion. But more or less, Bo Nickal wins one way or the other. If this goes to a decision, that will be terrible for Bo Nickal, and I don't think it does. He wins in the first round, in my opinion, to move to 5-0. He'll get the takedown and submission here in the middleweight division at UFC 290. In the lightweight division, one of the best and deepest divisions in the UFC. This fight goes down at UFC 290. Jalen Turner, top-ranked guy, comes in at 13-6, taking on Dan Hooker, looking to get back in the mix in a lightweight division. He's 22-12. Now, Turner's tall for a lightweight. He stands 6'3", 3 inches taller than Hooker. He's just now entering the prime at 28 years old. Hooker's 33, so a little bit more experience on the side of Hooker. Turner, 2-inch reach advantage. He fights left-handed. Hooker can switch it up. He's a switch stance fighter. Now, in terms of activity, this is why I like Turner in a lot of fights. 5.6 significant strikes per minute to 4.8 for Hooker, so that's like 10 to 12 over the course of a 3-round fight. Neither guy lands, on average, a takedown per fight. They're just under that mark, so they'll both probably land 1, and we'll see what they can do with it. So good takedown defense from Turner at 74%. Hooker as well, 81%. Now, lately, Turner, he did lose to Mateusz Gamrot by split decision. That was a nice outing, even though he didn't get that win, because before that, he ran off 5 in a row against Brad Riddell, Jamie Malarkey, Uros Medic, and so on. Now, Dan the Hangman Hooker, coming off the win over Claudio Puelles. He lost to Arnold Allen before that, and Islam Makhachev by submission in the first round before that, and beat Nasrat Haqparast. So he's kind of bounced around a little bit between divisions. Now coming back to the lightweight division, looking to get some success. But as good as Dan Hooker is, and he could very well win this fight, don't get me wrong, I still like Jalen Turner. Even if he loses, this is a guy that's on the come up, right? He's starting to hit his stride. We've seen this in terms of multiple fighters like Caceres. We've seen this with Oliveira. Start out slow, then boom, he wins 5 in a row and then takes Mateusz Gamrot to a split decision. Nobody saw that coming. So look out for Jalen Turner. Even if he loses this fight, keep an eye on this guy because he's entering the peak age of 28 to 33. He's at 28, just the beginning. So you're going to see a better and better Jalen Turner over the next 3 to 5 years. I like him to win this by close decision. The Gamrot fight gave him some experience. So in my opinion, he wins on significant strikes and takedown defense to move to 14-6 lightweight division, UFC 290. In the middleweight division at UFC 290, you got 2 top middleweights and Robert Whittaker coming in at 25-6, taking on Dricus Du Plessis, who comes in at 19-2. These guys stack up well. Du Plessis 1 inch taller at 6'1". He's not even 30 years old yet. He's got a 2-inch reach advantage. He's a switch stance fighter. Whittaker stands right-handed. When it comes to activity, Du Plessis, we know, can take a punch and then can deliver, especially as the fight goes on. He lands 6.7 significant strikes per minute to Robert Whittaker's 4.5. Considerable advantage. He also lands more takedowns, 2.8 over the course of 3 rounds. That's basically 1 every round. Now, Whittaker, coming off the win over Vettori, lost to Adesanya, but before that, beat Kelvin Gastelum, beat Jared Cannonier, beat Darren Till. Almost always, when he wins, it's by decision. And what we know from Du Plessis is he gets stronger throughout the fight, but it's not a 5-rounder, right? It's a 3-rounder. So he's going to have to start getting off early in the second round if he wants to win this fight. He's got a 50% takedown defense. That's a problem, but not against Robert Whittaker, who wants to stand and strike. Now, he did beat Derek Brunson by KO, Darren Till by submission, Brad Tavares decision, Trevin Giles KO. What you like to see in all those is he's winning in a variety of different ways, like against Darren Till, landing 6 takedowns, just controlling him. Against Derek Brunson, outstriking him, right? It led to the KO in the second round. If I remember correctly, the first round didn't go quite his way, but he still found a way to win. So he's a legitimate fighter, a tough fighter. I don't know if he's on the level of Israel Adesanya, but he might be on the level of Robert Whittaker. I want to go against Dricus du Plessis, but I can't here. It's just something, on one end, I'm thinking Robert Whittaker, even though he's down in all the categories, takedowns, significant strikes per minute when compared to du Plessis. So normally I'm going to say du Plessis is going to win, which is what I'm saying. But I still think Robert Whittaker is the veteran in this situation. So sometimes I lean towards the veteran. And I very well could be wrong here, but something tells me Dricus du Plessis is going to win this fight. And it may not even go his way early on. As I said earlier, like in the first round, it may not go his way. But he will find a way to come through in the second round. If it goes into the third, maybe he's got to take it to a decision because you're dealing with a tough Robert Whittaker. But du Plessis is going to edge out a victory here at worst, in my opinion, to move to 20-2, and that puts him in contention for the title. This fight goes down middleweight division, UFC 290. In the flyweight division for the flyweight division title, this is going to be a banger. Brandon Moreno comes in at 21-6 and holds the title, taking on Alexander Pantoja, who he lost to back in 2018, a long time ago. He's 25-5. Now Moreno 2 inches taller at 5'7". He's 29. He's peaking. Pantoja pretty much already peaked and maintained it. Moreno has a 2-inch reach advantage, 70-68. Both guys fight right-handed. Now here's why a lot of people believe Pantoja will win is the activity. 4.3 significant strikes per minute to 3.6 for Moreno. Both guys land over a takedown per round. And in the previous fight, Moreno had 2 takedowns to none, but trailed big time in significant strikes. So Moreno, 67% takedown defense. That'll be fine. Lately, he beat Figueiredo in the 4th fight, beat Kai Kara-France by KO before that. He had 4 fights in a row with Figueiredo, but going back to his fight with Pantoja a long time ago, he's 24, 25 at the time. He's young, lost by decision, 79-45 in significant strikes. Pantoja, on the other hand, has won 3 in a row against top fighters like Alex Perez, Brandon Royval, Manel Kape. So he's earned the right to get to this fight. He did lose to Askar Askarov, but that was 4 fights ago. Since then, that was in 2020 as well. Very early on at a weird time in the UFC, but has run off 3 straight since. Now, Moreno is he's actually a 2-1 favorite. I thought he was the underdog. Okay, that makes more sense to me because moments ago I was looking at it and I was like, how is Pantoja the favorite? There's no way. But in my opinion, Brandon Moreno is going to win this fight. He's going to do it on takedowns and really try to control this thing. And it might be a close fight if it goes to a decision, but I think Moreno still wins 3 out of 5 rounds on at least 2 judges' scorecards. But make no mistake, Pantoja is going to give himself every opportunity to win this fight. I just think Moreno's too good now. And it's, it's 5 years later, 2018 to 2023. So you got a much better Moreno since then. He wins by decision, more than likely to move to 22-6 flyweight division title at UFC. In the featherweight division for the featherweight division title at UFC 290, this is your main event. You got Alexander Volkanovski coming in at an impressive 25-2, taking on Yair Rodriguez, who comes in at 16-3. Volkanovski is a decent favorite, nearly 5-1 coming into this fight. Now he's 5 inches shorter at 5'6". He's used to that. He's getting up there in age a little bit, 34 years old. He's got a 1-inch reach advantage. Both guys stand right-handed. Volkanovski lands about 6.4 significant strikes per minute. Yair, 4.8 per minute. So both guys very active. That's the first thing you want to notice. Volkanovski lands like a takedown and a half every 3 rounds. So that's like a takedown every other round. So in a 5-round fight, maybe he gets 2 takedowns. Yair Rodriguez, not even one takedown over the course of 3 rounds. So just looking at how these guys stack up before we go further, Volkanovski is better everywhere. He also has a decent takedown defense, 70%. That's slightly above average. That's helping him stay atop the division. Now, he went up to the lightweight division, as you know, lost to Islam Makhachev by unanimous decision. He outstruck Islam 70-57, believe it or not. But Islam landed 4 takedowns and controlled the fight for 3 rounds. That's the bottom line. Volkanovski has beaten Max Holloway like 3 times, dominated him in the last fight, 199-127 in significant strikes, no takedowns. He beat Chan Sung Jung, a.k.a. the Korean Zombie, with 4 takedowns. He beat Brian Ortega in dominating fashion, 214 significant strikes to 88. And you can just go down the list, and he lands a lot of significant strikes. Makes it very tough on opponents. Yair Rodriguez coming off the win over Josh Emmett. That was big. Triangle, submission. Beat Brian Ortega by KO. Lost to Max Holloway. See, that's a big one there. Max Holloway got off on him. Lost by unanimous decision. He did beat Jeremy Stevens before that. But listen, this one's simple. Volkanovski's beat Holloway 3 times. Yair couldn't even match up with Holloway. This is going to be an easy victory for Volkanovski. Yeah, he's 34 years old, but he's still in the prime of his career. He's not going down in this fight unless there's some underlying problem that he has coming into the fight, which I don't foresee that as well, although fighters do deal with problems like that we're sometimes unaware. But the bottom line is Volkanovski is the better fighter. He's going to beat Yair Rodriguez, but I'd like to see him get the finish. We'll see. But nonetheless, he's going to move to 26-2. Mainly in significant strikes. He'll defend the takedowns well enough, probably land close to 200 significant strikes in this fight and win easily over Yair Rodriguez here in the featherweight division at UFC 290.